Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to a very surprise episode of the Saturday Morning RPG Show. My name is Jordan, with a silent PH in the middle, and I'm joined by my wonderful co-host, Sir Lucian, over at Sir Lucian Gaming. Hello, sir. How are you this fine 2024?
Doing great. How are you today? It's
I'm.
been a bit.
It's been a while, yeah. We've been busy, and I was in a Christmas show that we
That's
would
true.
get home at like 2.
Oof.
I was like in bed asleep by like 2 on Fridays.
And
And
the
so,
lead, right?
yeah,
So had to carry the show on your shoulders.
well, that's debatable,
Okay.
um, but yeah, I was just exhausted, and then Christmas hit, and then other stuff, and you were busy with work and other things like that. I think so. Like we just haven't been here. But hello, it has been very
Definitely.
long. I
Yeah.
apologize.
Yeah.
Have I recovered from the holidays? Yeah, I guess. I don't know. Like, still
I think
got a
they were
lot. I
great for
gotta.
me. I got a lot of rest.
That's good. I did get a little bit of rest. The hardest thing about that show though was we get home so late, but then your toddler still wakes up at 7 and
Oh
is
yeah.
like, "Why are we not doing stuff?" And I'm like, "Oh my gosh!" So we would I would get up and hang out with him, and we'd do stuff, and then midway through the day, I'm like, "I gotta go take a nap," and my wife would jump in and stuff. So we made it
Yeah.
work, but I don't think I'll do it again. Those late night shows
Mhm.
killed me. I'm definitely in my 40s, and so I was like, I
Yeah.
don't think I'm not 25 anymore. I don't think I could do this.
Well, it'll probably be what, maybe three more years, 4 more years, and then he'll just be tied to his own Game Boy or Steam Deck that you buy him, and then you won't even have
Maybe
to worry about it no more.
we'll see.
He'll
I'll
be an
have
80s
this.
kid. You put him in front of the cartoon box and
Yeah,
then you just watch cartoons all day long.
yeah, yeah. So I'm building shelves in the basement, and I set up the retro TV. The retro TV, the cathode tube TV that we
The
have.
big
Yeah, yeah. Like
box.
it weighs
Yes.
a ton. And I finally got that set up, and then I bought a Raspberry Pi with some emulators and stuff on it, and I built a little thing and plugged it in there, and it works, and it like plays on the TV really well, and I was like, this is awesome. And so I was like, he'll not want for games growing up. I don't think is what's probably going to happen.
Nice.
Yeah. So hello everybody. We're just gonna, I don't know, do our usual stick. It's kind of we're out of practice. We'll see where the show takes us. But I'm sure you guys have heard all of the bad news of Hasbro laying off people before Christmas. Uh, I don't really need to get into it because we've already gotten into it a whole bunch. It's like obviously a crappy thing to be fired right before Christmas, but there you go. And a lot of this, I did a video on the main channel that is like, I don't know, 2024 prediction, not
Yep.
predictions, but just like my thoughts going into all of this. Because 2023 was a hard year, not just with the OGL and the other stuff, but for me personally, it was just a hard year because of my house construction and things like that. But I think the future is bright for RPGs. I don't know. There was somebody on, this is unprompted question for you, Lucian, but there was somebody on the Twitter space that I forget who, and I don't know if they're of importance, and I should know who they are. That sounds bad, but like, I don't know. But he was saying that the golden age of RPGs is dead because the pandemic is over, which got me thinking, what does golden age of RPG actually mean? Because I don't know if that's just sales or the amount of people playing them. And
Yeah.
but the idea is that the hobby will become so splintered now because you'll go to somebody and be like, "Hey, I want to play D&D," and they're like, "Well, we play the MCDM RPG," or "Oh, we play Daggerheart," or "Oh, we play Shadow Dark," or "We play this," and they're all kind of similar. And I've heard similar things, similar concerns about the OSR, where it's not unified enough that it'll never catch on because you need that, like, we're all playing, I don't know, checkers. We're not taking checkers and making our own sub variant of checkers that nobody knows what it is because
Yeah.
time is limited. So
Mhm.
I don't know. What did you think? Do you think the golden age is over? Were we ever even in the golden age? I would argue that we're
Mm.
not, but
Yeah. I mean, well, to me, I think the last golden age that I remember would have been the 80s when it gotten pretty popular again. I felt like everybody, all the people I knew in high school and stuff were playing. I knew a lot of college people were playing 80s and 90s, and then they would kind of fall off after that. They wouldn't
Yeah.
play much past that. And that seemed like that was what the golden age of back then was and what we compare it to now. But just the market saturation of what we've had in the, say, last 5 years for Dungeons and Dragons seems like it's probably peaked. And I could see it maybe coming back down where tabletop role-playing games kind of come back down. It was a nostalgia hit for maybe 10 years or a decade there. It was everybody going back, oh, I used to do that. Maybe I'll try it again. And then there was this whole new group of people.
Right.
And just the idea of the number of people me and you have met where it was the first time they'd ever even tried it. And I think that kind of points to a golden age versus when we're out of the golden age, you're meeting people who, oh, I used to do that and I'll try it again. But you're not really meeting a lot of people who said, oh, I've never tried this and I'm looking to try it. So I could see if that was your barometer of, are we in a golden age and are we now out of a golden age? I like the premise of, it's almost like saying, hey, Jordan, I like computer games. Let's play computer games. And in that thought would be, we both play the same type of computer game. But then you'd go like, oh, I like a side scroller.
I only play Diablo. I'm sorry.
Yeah, like, oh, and we don't hook up.
Yeah.
You know, like, oh, okay, because there are so many types of games. And TTRPGs have gotten to the point now where there are so many types of games that if a bunch of them got pretty popular, then you would have big kind of columns of fan base versus what we've had, the monolith for so long.
Yeah.
So
I think that's good. You know,
premise.
Dungeons and Dragons became like Kleenex, but we never had that with like video games, except your mom always called your Xbox the Nintendo, you know? And so I wonder if it's kind of like that, where it's like, I know that Xbox is different than this. I know that these type of games, I like this publisher. Like, I really like Konami. I'm never going to buy a Rare game. I don't know. But you're right. It's probably going to be more like that. And I think at the end of the day, if you make a fun game, people are going to play it. So
they'll find an audience.
Yeah, your mom, Sky.
Yeah.
Specifically Sky's mom. But no, you're right. Like I remember so yeah, I don't know. I think the more getting away from D&D as being like the brand name tissue, Kleenex, and having it more of tabletop RPG, and this is one version of it. But like
they need another name for it.
Yeah,
because RPG is too broad.
Yeah, you're right. Japan apparently calls them table talk role-playing games, and I like that a lot because it's like, no, just get around and you talk. You talk out your problems. It's great. You might talk out your problems with violence, but you're just using
swords and fireballs.
But yeah, so
I would say one other indicator. Let me know if you think this too. One other indicator: Kickstarter still seem to be making pretty good money from spin-offs of tabletop role-playing game systems. And I wonder if when we're out of the golden age, if we're saying right now is a golden age, is when we start to see those Kickstarters fail or not meet over maybe just a couple $100,000 versus they're breaking millions left and right.
Yeah.
All over the place. Historica, Arcanum, MCDM, they're all breaking big records and big numbers still. So I wonder if that's another indication that maybe we are in a golden age.
Oh, man. Oh, and by the way, someone in chat said that was Ben Riggs who said this golden age tweet.
Ben Riggs.
He's a RPG historian. I think he wrote a bunch of books. Oh, my gosh. I have the exact answer to your question that... Dave Thalmavor, he does RPG reviews on the internet, and he posted a link to me the other day that was the RPG Kickstarter geek list tracking. So they went over the total number of RPG projects from 2012 to 2022, and 2021 had the most, which was $60 million total. And so to reflect on that, 2012 was like 10 million total. And so it ramps up like this. I can't show you the graphic, but it's up here. But I can share it with Lucian.
That's when Kickstarter takes off, though, too.
There's a lot of factors there. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
But it went down in 2022. And I think that
which
was
is
partially
surprising.
the OGL debacle and things like that. And people were kind of unsure, like, ooh, or,
Oh,
you
for
know,
sure.
and the ending of 5e. A lot of people aren't going to make 5e supplements because they're like, I don't know, like, what's the world coming to, kind of a thing.
Mm-hmm.
But it was interesting. And then Backer Kit apparently has the same kind of thing where they released their stuff, and they also had an increase, in all of their things. So it was highly lucrative to make
Yeah.
RPG supplements in 2022, 2023. We'll see. We'll see about the future. So I don't know.
Well, I'll remember during COVID year too, I bet it was pretty high too, because I felt like I spent a lot of money on Kickstarters during COVID. And I think I
Yeah.
pared it back like you did last year. Like I definitely told myself not to do as many as I had done in the previous years because I was getting a little crazy
Yeah.
over 2018, 2019, 2020. And I was like, okay, I need to pare it back a little bit. I've got so many books. It's crazy.
Like for
So I could see
example,
2022 going down and 2023 maybe going down too.
yeah. Like for example, we'll talk about it, but MCDM they raised 4.6 million. But the minute they announced that MCDM RPG, or they started the Backer Kit, I was like, I don't need it. They're gonna have books for decades. Like this is gonna be
Yeah.
so popular. And so it's one of those things that I'm like, I don't think I need to get in on the ground floor of this. Like if it comes out and
Yeah, I
it's
can get
really
it
good,
anytime.
like there's lots of other stuff, but I have so much OSR stuff that I'm really loving to play
Mm-hmm.
that
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of more important to me right now. So, but yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Maybe we'll have to check in. So next year in
yeah.
2025, which is a crazy thing to even say. I'm surprised we're going to be in 2024, but
Yeah.
2025, we'll have to check back in and say, did the golden year, was it over? Did it decline this whole year? We'll see. It could be, this could be the year it's going to happen, right? At some point it'll be back out of favor. It won't be as popular. There'll be something else that's new and fun that everybody does. And this will just kind of in the background until I think nostalgia cycle brings it back around and then
Yeah.
boom, everybody's playing role-playing games again or something.
Yeah. I don't, and we'll see. I also want to define, like, the golden age of comics was not when comics were selling the most, and it didn't
True.
like splinter off into a bunch of other comics. So I think it was kind of a random
Yeah.
tweet, but it got a lot of traction because with 6th edition, or the 2024 edition of D&D coming out, it's kind of like, what's happening, where are we going with this and things like that. So
Yeah.
I don't know, I'm really curious, but I mean, companies want you to play their game, but I was equating it to, TSR failed when they made too many campaign settings. And so, they made Forgotten Realms and Dragonlance and Planescape. And then it got to the point where, well, if I played Planescape, I didn't buy the Forgotten Realms stuff because I only needed Planescape stuff. So why would I buy the Forgotten
Right.
Realms stuff? And so they fractured their own market and they oversaturated with books and things like that. And I wondered if having all of these different RPGs was going to do two things. One, fracture the market. And so it's like, well, one person can't sell you a whole bunch of books because they already bought like X, Y, and Z other little books, which is kind of happening. Like I didn't buy the MCDM RPG because I have other books that I bought. But the other side of that is like, I wonder if people are going to start making system neutral things, because already Monty Cook Games and Paizo are making their in-house game or story, and then they'll make a module that's 5e compatible. So it's like, I could buy this in Cypher system or 5e, or I could buy this here. And so it's like, you're already seeing that. Are we just going to go straight system neutral, where it's like, I don't know, figure it out, but we'll see.
Well, one other thing, let me think before you jump there too. One indicator that that's happening from the company itself, that's the monolith or has been the monolith, is that Wizards of the Coast and Hasbro itself, which we obviously know are this kind of the same entity, they're putting a lot of the money into, we were just looking online, 3 different computer game companies, versus all that money that they're spending right there could have been put into, we'll make more product books, we'll make more campaigns, or we'll make more
but the return
D&D
on
books, but they're not, right? So where are they putting their money? They're putting their money in merchandising, other
licensing,
movies, licensing, and then these 3 computers. So they're kind of seeing the computer area of gaming being more than the book because they're just putting more money into it. So even they are kind of like riding where the bubble is of a tabletop role-playing game and hedging their bets or putting their stake in other spots.
The physical sales of books is not as profitable. And Sly Flourish put this really well, where Hasbro bought D&D Beyond for like $150 million. Did it cost $150 million to design and develop 5e? Absolutely not. Did it cost $1 million? Probably not even. Like, very little number.
All the salaries,
like,
all the
you start thinking of all the people that put into it and like the art you commissioned. I was like, to actually develop 5, and so it's like, why is D&D Beyond worth $150 million when it's not even the game that you're making? And it's because of the brand and moving out and doing all this other stuff. And so they know that they want the brand to succeed more than they want the game to succeed.
Yeah, it's keychains and coffee mugs and t-shirts and posters and clothing and everything,
getting it to be like
movies.
A fanatical, like, man, I love D&D. So I mean, the whole reason we have like a show like this is because of that, like we bought into it. So Book of Many Things is coming out. I don't know. I don't have a copy. I think you can get it at local game stores now. We should probably check on that. But it is available on D&D Beyond, and I have looked at it a little bit there. And I think it's the best product that they've come out with in a while. Better than the Planescape box set, and I didn't read Big B's, but like better than a lot of the other stuff. As far as like GM tools, which I don't feel like we get a lot. And so I'm excited to actually sit down with the physical cards and like create my own campaign, like mini campaign, be like, oh yeah, and then this happens and this happens. I think that's a really cool, like a tarot deck for RPG design. It's kind of neat. So
yeah, I like the physical kind of things that you can bring to a table where you can do those kinds of things. Is always a cool, creative idea, I think.
Yeah. We have, the rumor is that May is when the 2024 edition of D&D will be released. And that's from a screenshot at a PAX Unplugged event. Has since been taken down. Hasbro's just denied everything, but it was probably just like, I don't know, it was on there and nobody spot checked it or something. It's probably like a pending date. Who knows if it's a hard date. It would be a good date for them. And I think they said they want to release all 3 books. So Monster Manual, Player's Handbook, and Dungeon Master's Guide at the same time, which is not usually what they do. So we'll see. But that's that. Yeah. So tentatively May, which is a ways off.
Yeah.
5 months.
I'm so interested to see how what they're going to try to name it. Like, what are they? What's the speculation?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The people they didn't want to name it 5e. They wanted you to call it D&D Next or just D&D. The people called it 5e. So if it's enough like 5e, we'll call it 5.5. I'm pretty sure.
I'm sure, yeah.
Or like, I don't know, new 5.5 or 5e or something. But
yeah. Yep, I can see it being that.
What's this Exodus game? What's going on here? I'm really curious.
Yeah, so when I went to their front page today, just because I hadn't been out there for a bit, right on the front page, they were talking about this game company that they are partnered with that are backing, and they're going to make RPG games based off of it's a sci-fi RPG game. They didn't give a lot of details. Yeah. Video game. They do list like a lot of the people they've hired have come from a lot of big name companies, but I think that's what a lot of computer game companies like to do and say, oh, we've got the guy who did Baldur's Gate 3, and we've got a guy who was on the Mass Effect team, and we've got, that's one of the ways they try to drum up the excitement. They have a trailer that is a CGI non-gameplay trailer. So it's definitely sci-fi. It's Become the Traveler. I got a kind of a Mass Effect vibe from it. So I was like, okay, this is interesting. It's a company out of Austin that they back. And we knew that if you guys go back to some of our old shows, we've talked about when they were announcing, or we had found that there was 2 or 3 video games in process of being made, or they were getting studios together to be able to build AAA games, and we weren't sure what they were going to be. One of them is this Archetype Entertainment is doing this game called Exodus.
And they were also coming up with new intellectual property, right? Because the whole thing was like, they're not doing a D&D game or a Magic the Gathering game. And we're like, oh, really? So
yeah, on some of them, and then some I think we're going to be like the other one, like the Skeleton Key Studio sounds like they are making a D&D property game. Exodus, I think, is it's a new property, but backed by Hasbro and Wizards of the Coast. And then there's Invoke Studio, which I also saw on their webpage. So they've got like 3 different studios, 2 of them Austin-based, 1 of them Montreal-based, Canada, which kind of aligns with some of the news stuff that we had saw back in the day about different computer companies that were working with, or they were ramping up to start building games. Who knows when we'll see games? A lot of game development can be anywhere from 5 to 7 or 5 to 10 years to see a game. So I don't know if that means, when we would see a game that would come from this, but I just thought it was interesting. It sounds like they're heavily leaning onto computer game side, and they want to take the licensing and the money that they've earned and the profit that they've gained, and they're pushing it into that realm, which probably is because they always get that, stockholders share thing. That computer games made $10 billion this year. So everybody wants to get in on that kind of market, right? So, I could see them pushing into that. And that's where people are gaming.
Honestly, games make more money than movies. Like, it's one of the highest risk, I think, because it's really easy to make a
saturated market game, but big.
But like, if you can make a Mass Effect, you can make a lot of money.
Well, Baldur's Gate
3
knocked it out of the park last year, and I wonder if they're building on the idea that how successful they were in partnering with Larian. Now, me and you even said, even just in our pre-show, we realize Larian is a company that should get the kudos because they're a good company and they've made good games before. And yes, the partnership with D&D is awesome, but I'm pretty sure that the reason the game is the way it is because how good Larian is.
Because they just took the Forgotten Realms and made a Baldur's Gate game. But Larian's top choice,
company.
Yeah.
But I could see them saying, well, if we were real successful there, why can't we be successful in other places? And we'll find out if they can pull it off or if if it flops. So I hope for good games. If not, well, there's always so many more other good games I can go play. It's okay if it doesn't. Not all of them have to be great, but I'll probably at least check them out or keep an eye on them as they go through because I'm interested in that franchise.
They're all just
my thing.
Yeah, they're chasing profits, and so I'm sure they looked at like, hey, movies are profitable, let's make a movie. But then at the end of this year, they sold their stake in the movie company, so Hasbro's not like partnering to make movies. They might license out IP to make other movies, but they're not gonna have a hands-on approach like they did before. And then, but games are profitable. Does that mean
we won't get a number 2 of the movie they did? Do you think we won't get a sequel?
There's no plans for a sequel. But Chris, I almost said Pratt. Chris Pine.
Chris Pine. Yep.
There's too many Chris's in Hollywood. Chris Pine said that he was going to do. He wants to do a sequel, and he's kind of like petitioning for it to be like, I want to do this. Because he likes the franchise, and so then it would be who owns the movie rights, and it's like Hasbro and this company that they sold it to, and they would have to negotiate. So it could still happen. It would just have less Hasbro involvement. And like how many Transformers movies did we get? That's a good point, Soltron. Lots of Transformers movies, but the Transformers movies underperformed the last couple times, and so they're like, I don't know, we don't want to do this anymore, So
we got 2 or 3 G.I. Joe movies, even though I love G.I. Joe.
Well, and the last Transformers movie had a G.I. Joe tie-in, and they were like, they're going to merge the universes, and it's like, okay, whatever. But yeah, so we don't know, long story short, but point is video games are more profitable than movies, and they have heavily invested in video games, so yeah. In the OSR world, Shadow Dark was released physically. It's a very pretty book. A lot of people are playing it. I got my physical copy. I'm very excited to have it. Matt Colville loves Shadow Dark. Somebody sent me a picture of the like inspirations for the MCDM RPG, and Shadow Dark is listed number 1 with a hyperlink in the PDF that takes you directly where you can buy it. And I know Kelsey, who wrote Shadow Dark, and she was just like, what? Like, that's like the best free advertising I could ever get, because she raised $1 million and he raised 4.6. People are going to check it out. Pretty amazing. Knave 2e was released in PDF a couple of days ago. I want to say Tuesday. And I haven't had a chance to peruse it, but it looks really good. And then in other OSR news, Zine Quest 2024 is happening this February. It's gonna be awesome. Like, I think Zine Quest is gonna have a lot of cool stuff this year, especially because of the Creative Commons stuff. Like, there's so many mechanics that are there now that are just like, it's great. Like, I don't have to worry. And so I think people are gonna do that. Take them out. Yeah, Sly Flourish is a big fan of Shadow Dark. He's running a Shadow Dark campaign right now. And if you're curious about that, he has videos detailing his vlogs being like, this is what I did in Shadow Dark last night. And he's having a blast with it. And I know Baron DeRop, who's another YouTuber, he's running Hot Springs Island with Shadow Dark, which got me thinking, I'm like, well, I've already ran it for DCC and 5e. I should probably rerun it with Shadow Dark. Yeah. That would be exciting. So... the MCDM RPG ended yesterday, the crowdfunding for it, and at 4.6 million, which I think this is the most that MCDM has made, right? Because his other books, I think he broke 2 million. I'm trying to think about Flea Mortals, if that was 2 or 3. Yeah. But this is by far the biggest. So, and Flea Mortals is an excellent book. I haven't had a chance to use any of those monsters because I haven't been running 5e, but I will hopefully be running Pangea soon, and that'll be like my first dip back into 5e really since Great Modron March ended. I shouldn't say ended, on hiatus. We're gonna try and get back in March. We'll see. So
very cool.
What's going on with Paizo?
So I looked, they did a lot of holiday sales. It seemed like over January, they weren't doing a lot. They had already had their schedule set. So there wasn't a lot that I saw coming up that I thought was too excited. They are still doing their field test or play testing of their next version of Starfinder, which has a lot of people excited because I think we've all wanted a revised version of Starfinder because the original world they've created for Starfinder, I think a lot of people are intrigued with. The artwork is fantastic, but the rules I felt were a little clunky trying to learn them, and other people I've tried to play with.
Well, they're trying to bring it up to Pathfinder 2nd Edition standards, right? Like, kind of.
Yes. Yeah. All their lessons they've learned, all their editing lessons they've learned, streamlining things that needed to be streamlined, adding in more things that they were adding in. So Playtest 3 is out. You can go to the website and you can take a look at it. It looks like they're kind of doing the play testing of it used to be called species when you would pick in your character class, but now they're moving it over to ancestries, which just aligns with, the Pathfinder 2e revision that they did too. And it makes sense. So, and I think for them, it's a no-brainer to have, if you're going to have Pathfinder 2e be a rule set, your Starfinder rule set should be so similar that both groups could play interchangeably. You wouldn't want to create the game where it's so different that the fans of Starfinder can't figure out Pathfinder, and the fans of Pathfinder can't quite figure out Starfinder. You don't want that. You want your whole group, play both.
I mean, Goodman Games, like the Mutant Crawl Classics versus Dungeon Crawl Classics, like they're very interchangeable. And they even say, like, you can do this. And if you run a mutant in a high wizarding campaign, they're not going to be as strong just because you don't have access to technology and stuff. But the idea is that, like, if you understand the mechanics in one system, the other one is very similar. And so
it should be close enough. Yeah. You should be able to get through a session, get through. And I'm excited for it too, because I think I would have played a lot more Starfinder if the rules weren't quite as clunky, because the world they build and the artwork that they have backing it and all of the supplements that they have, that once that stuff kind of fits into a system that's easy to learn, I could see it being very popular, because nobody else really touches them on that sci-fi level of content. Like you want a content channel on YouTube that could just go through so many different books and so many different things. Go through the Starfinder stuff and all the adventures they've released and all the extra books they put out there, all the different worlds they've created,
Lock
all the
yourself
different
in a
races
room
they've
and
created.
read for 8 months, and then come back out and you'll be able to talk about it.
That's good. And sometimes that's what, us dungeon masters looking for the game that we want to jump into. Sometimes we love a single shot that has very small, easy to read book and you can just play it. But then other times we're looking for that big where we know if we jump into it, there's a lot for us to explore and there's a lot for us to go out and get, with plenty of room for us to put our own stuff in, But also, if I want to know about this star system and this moon and this planet, I can go get that book and just like, oh, what's going on here?
Well,
What's
first
this
of all,
race doing?
Lucian,
Oh,
that's no moon.
that's true. Absolutely. That was our first line in our session spoilers for Dungeon of the Mad Mage when we were in our Spelljammer ship heading towards the moon, and my character definitely said, wait a minute, that's
Good job.
no moon.
Proud of you.
Yes. So that's all I saw. I expect we'll start to see the new announcements for the 2024 lineup. They are not shy about putting out their books that are going to be coming out. They're not shy about getting everything out there. I saw a bunch of their new books on my comic book shelves, the revised editions, because they also did a second edition revised to their books this past year too. Just like Hasbro's doing with or Wizards is doing with theirs. So
yeah,
everybody seems to be in this revising and cleaning
Pathfinder
up.
revised to get rid of every scrap of OGL-ness. They want to make sure that they own everything, which is it's odd because I think a lot of people were sad they got rid of the word drow, even though Hasbro doesn't own drow. They got rid of owlbear because Hasbro doesn't own the idea of an owlbear. But they really wanted to make sure that they're like, you can't sue us. We're our own thing.
Yeah,
like,
we're our own. Which is fine,
I understand being scared. So I think it's sad that they have to do that, but we're in a sue happy world, and I know Hasbro likes their lawyers. So, yeah.
So I think that's all we see with Paizo. I expect a little bit more as we get towards the end of January that we'll see a bunch more announcements and hype. And they always build up to get to Gen Con, and they always do some big Gen Con releases. So I think we'll see that from Paizo. I just think we're in a little bit of a slow period as their people did their Christmas vacations, holiday vacations. They let their people. They're usually good with their people also. So I imagine that maybe they ramped production down some to fit in the holidays, and then they can ramp back up and do their thing. So then the other thing I saw, which I thought was very interesting, this game called Salvage Union. A mecha game, and I know you are a mecha game fan.
This does look really cool.
Quest RPG rule set. I hadn't heard of the Quest RPG rule set.
Leyline
Apparently, it's a
press. Is that what you're saying?
Yep, it's the company's Leyline Press, but the rule set is Quest RPG, and it sounds like it's a D20, but it's similar to Powered by the Apocalypse, where you have a critical success, a regular success, or like a success with a complication, that kind of form of difficulty settings where you could get something, but there could be complications for something added on to it too. But instead of using just the 2d6 plus stat, which is the Powered by the Apocalypse version of that, it's a D20 style of that kind of same philosophy. So it's interesting because I do like the idea of the dice not only being a roll that matches a threshold, but then how much of the threshold is either over or under also could give the Dungeon Master a chance to add something in.
Yeah, I've heard of Quest. I think I have a PDF of Quest. Now that I looked up Quest RPG, I'm like, oh yeah, I recognize this. So
that sounds interesting. Now, the premise of Salvage Union is post-apocalyptic world, Earth-like, but you're basically in Mecca. You're part of, you have like a big Union salvage ship that is out there salvaging, and you're going across this wasteland and you're salvaging stuff to bring back, and either to sell to corporations or to create and add things to your mechs, or make money.
But it's a post-apocalyptic world, and you're out salvaging your survival. Yeah,
you're a salvage team of some sort. Lots of tropes for this. You could, lots of anime versions of stuff that just came up in my mind. The artwork looked really good, and I thought like what you said about the book itself. Even the book looked kind of cool. It was intriguing just really the way cool. they present their book. So something to maybe look at.
There's a free quick start. So yeah, beta quick start guide version 1.5 on their website, and it's free. So we should check it out for sure.
So I like that one. I'm always looking for a good mecha game. I've got Lancer, I've got Robotech, I've got Battletech. So I always like a good mecha game. And then the other thing I saw, which was interesting for me, I also sometimes like a superhero tabletop RPG, and Green Ronin is bringing out the Valiant comic book world, which is a huge comic book world for those of you
Oh,
that
okay.
love superhero comics. There's lots of characters, lots of superheroes, lots of villains. You can go, there's a huge comic book thing behind it. They're going to do a Valiant RPG so that you could play superhero tabletop
Is
RPGs in the
Valiant
Valiant
like a
universe.
Marvel where they have their own in-house? Oh,
Exactly.
okay. Cool.
Exactly. Yep. Yep. So that's another one that's very interesting to me because it is a world that I think is a very cool kind of characters. Just so many good characters in there. And I think it's Image Comic that did them, did the original Valiant, but they
Okay.
also they got big enough that they had the Legendary board game did Marvel, and then Legendary the card builder board game
Yeah,
that did
yeah.
DC. They also have a Valiant one, and so they did that
Okay.
whole. So they're big enough that there's enough there, and I think a lot of people
Bloodshot,
will recognize it.
Harbinger, Shadow Man, Archer, and Armstrong are just some of the
Yeah,
characters
those are
included.
the top ones. Yeah, yeah. There's
Cool.
even a movie. There might be one movie out of a Valiant character at the moment. I think Vin Diesel might have been
Oh, and it's powered by
the
Mutant
main
and
character.
Masterminds. So Kickstarter January 16th.
Yeah, and Green Ronin does a lot of cool stuff. I mean, there's a lot of games that Green Ronin, the company, has put out there too that we would recognize. So I thought we'd put out there.
Yeah, no, for sure. I've never played a superhero RPG. I played sci-fi, I've played fantasy, and I've played
I
like
played a
kids on
couple.
bikes, but I've never been superhero. That could be fun. I don't know.
I did a couple of demo games at Gen Con, and I played a lot of Mass, a next generation, or New Generation, which is
Yeah.
one of the best tabletop role playing teenage X-Men style powered by the apocalypse superhero game. And I ran them for Monty Cook and some of the other they were just running some off games also at the same time at their tables.
Oh, okay.
And Magpie had them, so I ran them at some Magpie tables, and it was really good.
And Bloodshot, somebody Jancy in chat said
Mm-hmm.
Bloodshot was the movie that they made. And that stars
Yes.
Vin Diesel.
Yeah.
Came out
So
in
they've done
2020.
one.
I have never heard of this, but it looks cool.
Yeah.
It's probably terrible because I've never heard of it, but
Yeah. It's okay. It's not bad for a watch. I wouldn't pay a bunch of money for it, but if it's on Netflix or something, yeah, not bad to
yeah.
pick up to watch. So and then other than that, I just wasn't sure how much, we were going to have to talk with news and stuff we did. So I was wondering for what do you think we're going to see this year prediction wise? What do you think is on the horizon for us for tabletop role playing games? But we know we're going to get several books from Dungeons and Dragons. We know there's a lot of revisions out and some Kickstarters, but what are you thinking? What are you thinking we're going to see tabletop role playing game wise?
Yeah, I think we're gonna have the rise of the YouTube Kickstarter,
Okay.
where we already saw it with like D&D Shorts. He did
Mm-hmm.
his thing. Alan from DC20 is working on a game. I think he'll kickstart it. World Builder Bob casually mentioned that he's working on a game, so I think you're going to see a lot more of like, and again, I'm looking at this, and I'm not faulting those people by any means, but I'm looking at money, and it's like that's kind of the next logical step of making money is to be like, let's make a Kickstarter. And so you have people like D&D Shorts who are partnering with people who have written other stuff, and they're like making supplements and things. So with the rise of that, I wonder how much more stuff we're going to see linked into D&D Beyond, much like the Dungeon Dudes. Their Dungeons of Drakkenheim supplement for 5e got pulled into that. And a lot of people are like, oh, Wizards is showing this as good faith, blah, blah, blah. But really, they want you to still play 5e. They don't want you to play other games, which is not...
Yeah.
like malicious. That's just their business tactic, because if you're playing 5e, you're in their system, you're buying their stuff, you're on Roll20 or D&D Beyond, you're playing there. And it's not like Roll20 D&D Beyond where I start playing, Mutants and Masterminds or some other random system. It's like you only play 5e, so why don't we bring in these people? So I'm wondering how much more of that you'll see in there. I wonder if like Monty Cook stuff will get pulled into D&D Beyond for the 5e stuff, and I wonder if you'll see Flea Mortals pulled into D&D Beyond. Like, who knows, I also want to point out that like we don't have an OGL for the 2024 books, so you might not see a lot of Kickstarters this 2024 until, and I can almost guarantee that Wizards is going to release those new books. We're gonna play it for like a year, then they'll think about creating an OGL for it, and I don't know if they will. So I don't know. Who knows?
I think we're going to see a big glut of virtual tabletops this year. I think I've already been seeing that, like, Foundry, Roll20, Nexus, D&D Beyond could have theirs out at some point this year, possibly. And then I'm seeing like Alchemy was really popular and getting a lot of press lately.
Demi played.
Demi. Yep. So I feel like there's a lot of people out there looking to get onto that virtual tabletop train of storing characters, storing campaigns, storing monster stats, storing maps.
Well, that's the other thing. I know you like to play online, but like so much of my day is spent online that like when I play RPGs, I don't want to play online. Like I want to play at a table with friends. Do you think there'll be a shift to more online play or less online play now that the pandemic is settled down?
Like you said, I am biased, so my answer will be slightly biased. I think it'll switch to more online. I just
you get to play with the people you want to play with. That's the good thing. You don't have to be like, well, Lucian's in another state, so I can't play with him.
Yeah. Or just the idea, like if you're even thinking, hey, I've got to watch my son this morning, and then we've got this other thing. I could fit 2 hours in if I don't have to drive somewhere, hang out, drive back in time to get to do something. If I could just pop my computer on, participate, and then the minute I'm off my computer, okay, guys, I got to go. I'm already at home. I'm already getting people ready to go and go off and do the thing that we're going to do. And that kind of convenience is just so good sometimes. But being around a table of friends is awesome too, right? So it's just like, it's tough. So convenience first, closeness or being together or hanging out. So I don't know. I think we'll see more online. But I'm guessing you lean more. We'll see more table. But
I honestly don't know. That's kind of why I asked. If I were to guess, I would say it'll probably stay the same because the people who want to play at the table will play at the table. Because it's such a like, what's everybody's schedule like? It's like, I don't know what your schedule is going to be like in 2024, but I do know that I prefer to play this way. But if it's that or no play, I'll probably play online, kind of a thing. Because ultimately I want to play and see my friends. But my DM Nathan, he moved away, and he's only like an hour and a half away, or I guess it's an hour away. But to drive there an hour to play for 4, sometimes 5 hours, and then to drive back, that's like a whole day dedicated to that. Which I was like, no, I want to dedicate that time. The problem is there are things that are slightly more important than me playing D&D. And because it's such a large window, even if this small sliver of a thing only takes like 15 minutes, I still can't do that because I can't get there and back to do all of this other stuff. So it was very difficult to play, where it could have been like, hey, I can run and do this for 15 minutes and then I'll come back and join the game online. But it was very difficult. So I feel like,
I don't know. I wish I lived in a town that had, I guess it would be called like a gaming bar or a gaming, like it's almost like they turn a restaurant or a meeting place into places where people can bring their groups to play games, whether it's board games or card games or role-playing games. And I know Austin has lots of these things, probably Boise.
I think Hank and Fernell is building one in Pennsylvania.
I just don't have any one of those because I think I would go to that where we could all hey, let's all go there because we could order some food. We could have drinks. We'd have a cool big table. We'd all meet there and have a good time. And then go home.
My gaming area is totally like DoorDash food. Like, do what you want. Sometimes there's a food truck outside that'll sell to us, like because they know it's dinner time. You're all coming off of work, and so and the gaming area doesn't really care if you bring in food, so that's always nice. But
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. The nice
those.
adult gaming atmosphere area would be cool.
Like a gathering place that's meant for that. And I know there's some places that have it, and they even make the whole place up like bookshelves and cool decor, and they've got all the stuff that you feel like you're in a cool gaming lounge or gaming bar, whatever you would call it.
Yeah.
I wish I had one of those. Or
I
wish it would. I know it would make enough money that I could create one, but I don't know if it would make enough money in my area. I don't.
Yeah.
I don't know if I can make that leap.
Look up your parents' basement, which is it's in Pennsylvania, and you can find really cool pictures of it. But they started a board game space. It's in an old bank, and they dressed it up like one of the rooms is dressed up like an '80s basement, and it's so cool. Like he did a really good job. But your parents' basement, it's really cool. I don't know, other New Year's predictions. It's such an influx year. I'm trying to think of 2014 when 5e came out. There wasn't a lot of like 5e Kickstarters because everyone was still trying to figure out what this new system was. But the 2024 version will be so like similar compatible that I'm wondering, it
won't be that big of a splash, I don't think. Yeah. I had a question for you that's kind of another one I didn't put on there, but it was an interesting idea. So you're our resident OSR guy, and
of the two,
maybe, yeah. And I like it, but I just know your passion for it is true and known within our show as we all take drinks when you mention it. And maybe some people don't know what OSR stands for, Mr. Jordan.
I don't even think the people in the OSR know what it stands for.
Okay, what is the going popular conception of OSR? What is that? What do those three letters actually mean?
Yeah, well, it's
number one.
Old school revival or old school renaissance is what they call it. And so the idea of the OSR is that, back in the 1970s and 80s, before we had a lot of mass communication like the internet, there were little pockets of people that played D&D in very specific ways. And so if I was at a table with my friends in Cleveland and we played like this, and then all of a sudden, Dad got a new job and I moved to Florida, and then I find a new group and I start playing the same way, they're like, you can't do that. Like, when we look for traps, we roll this. And it's like, what? And it's the idea that these house rules became so common because there wasn't a foundation of people to tell you, like there wasn't a Wizards of the Coast on high to be like, Jeremy Crawford said no, and so you're like, I don't know. And the old school revival was the idea of bringing that back, that it's okay to have a dozen different rules that do the same thing. And the people who play the game are like, oh, I get to choose what I want to use. This is how I want to play the RPG rather than how the book tells me to play. And then that spawned a whole bunch of, well, I'm going to make my own game and I'm going to do X, Y, and Z. When the OGL debacle hit, I was like, we should rename this the Old School Resistance. That would be cool. But,
that's cool. And really,
but that's what OSR is. It's just taking those like plethora of old rules and incorporating them into a simplified version of Dungeons and Dragons that you like. So do you like dungeon crawling? Here you go. This is how it works. Do you want this, But it is focused more on that than story, I feel. But that's changing as everything's evolving and changing, So
yeah, so I want to latch on to old rules a second, because if you really break it down, then what we're talking about is either some of that could be based off the basic edition rules, it could be based off the advanced rules, correct?
Yeah, like second edition,
5 or 3rd edition in any of the OSR, or is that too new of a rule set to be in OSR?
It's more of a feel, and that's the thing is like there isn't a hard and fine definition, because I think the majority of OSR people think that DCC is OSR, but that's all based off of 3.5 rules, like the entire edition is. Right. And then there's a huge divide. We don't even have the RPG yet, but there's a huge divide where people are like, MCDM is not OSR. But he's trying to incorporate a lot of the XYZ of what he played as a kid into it. So it's like, well, isn't that the definition of OSR? Like, I don't know. So yeah, I don't know.
So where I was going with that is here's where the tie-in now is. When do you think, or do you ever think 4th edition rules would be somehow then associated with OSR as being old school Renaissance, that it's far enough away, it's far enough old school that the 4th edition version could be part of OSR?
I think that's a fun question. Somebody was talking in chat that, Jancy was saying that, Wizards of the Coast / the PR guy that went around and talked to everybody, I forget his name, after the OGL debacle. One of the questions was like, hey, you put 5e in Creative Commons. Are you going to put 2nd edition, 3rd edition, 4th edition? Mostly 3rd and 4th. Are you going to put those in there? And they were like, yeah, we will. We just have to go through it with a fine-tooth comb to make sure we're not giving something away that we want to keep. And it was like, cool. That's been a year, and they have not done that. So who knows if they will. It could be one of those things where it's like, actually, we looked at that, and now we really don't want to. But since the OGL encompassed 5th edition and 3rd edition, I'm really surprised that they haven't put the 3rd edition SRD into Creative Commons. I'm not surprised if they don't do that for 4th edition, because 4th edition was never part of the OGL. They really held on to that. They wanted it to be their game. To answer your question, I think we would need a whole... One, Hasbro would have to put 4E SRD in the Creative Commons. 2, we would have to have an entire generation who didn't really remember 4th edition and then discover this like sacred SRD document and create from there to really think about it. But even then, we've already established that OSR is like 70s and 80s, So
right.
So then I think they would call it like new OSR or something. Like, who knows?
New Renaissance.
Yeah.
I love it.
If you think about it, like the majority of people that are creating OSR stuff, they're my age. Like they're people that were born in the 80s that didn't play in the 70s and 80s because they were 6. So I think of like Yokai Gal with Cairn, like he's 40, he's my age. And Ben Milton, I think, is younger than me, and he's creating Knave and all this other stuff. So it's not how old you are, it's but like they call it old school because of that. But like, hey, if somebody was in their 70s and they were like, well, I'm going to call it old school OSR because I actually played in 1974, I don't think that person, I don't know. Yeah, I guess I long story short, but I think that would first Wizards would have to put it in Creative Commons and let it go full circle. So
yeah. I just was thinking it was interesting because there are so many factors that have to come together for that to happen, for a niche group to grow big enough to be a popular subset. And we know OSR is a popular subset now. It's not just a few people. It's a big community.
It's getting very popular.
Yeah, it's doing really good. And I just wonder where those cutoffs were going to be. So I just thought it was an interesting question. We should ask Ben at some point, or even Lex and those guys who are deep into that community, kind of what they think too on that. And I wonder if we'll ever get that. Will we ever get a non-D&D game in the OSR? Could we get a original Pathfinder part of it somehow? Or does Powered by the Apocalypse somehow get pushed into that also? Because now it's been out long enough that it could be considered.
Well, yeah. Now you're getting into the nuances of, is it a story game? Is it a dungeon crawl? And again, the population is divided on like, I don't know if Powered by the Apocalypse is OSR. Because you start doing like, well, is what's the Powered by Apocalypse dungeon crawler? What's that called? That
Dungeon World?
Dungeon World, thank you, yeah. So Powered by Apocalypse Dungeon World is Powered by the Apocalypse. It's very story-driven. It's also called Dungeon World. And a lot of people associate that with the OSR because, like, you're going on missions and you're a fantasy and you're doing this.
Yeah.
And it's like, whoa, is it? And
or
so
like
that's
Torchlight? Is
that's
that
the
the
thing.
other one?
Like, we don't
Candle.
have a good, gauge on it. And so I don't know. Like, and that's probably a good thing because there isn't a Jeremy Crawford on high that is coming down and saying, let me touch this Dungeon World book and label it OSR. It's all play what you want to play, take the rule that you want to take. I don't like that. Shadow Dark is a prime example where I was reading through Shadow Dark. 80% of that book is fun random tables to create stuff. But it's a very simple game. And what did Kelsey do is she was like, well, I want to build a game, but man, Dark Vision really messes up everything I want to do. So rule number 1, nobody has dark vision. And that was her OSR style rule where she's like, I'm going to just get rid of this. And so even though you're an elf, even though you're a dwarf, you don't have dark vision. And it's a heavy reliance on torches and management of items that you have, because that's the style of dungeon crawling she wanted, you know, when she wrote that game. And the cool thing about that is I can read that and be like, oh, boy, I like all of this, but I don't like this. Maybe I'll change it and do this. And that's, you know, the whole point. And then you get, all of a sudden you get modular D6 where Jordan's making weird things about D6s and calling it cool. So there you go.
Exactly. All right. So what did Jordan do over, or what's he got planned gaming wise? What did you end up getting to do since
well,
the middle of December into first week of January?
Haven't played any games really because of the
no games got played. Wow.
Yeah. Well, I did play one. So Lex ran a Dungeon Crawl Classics game called Doom of the Savage Kings for me and Diogo, who is a Brazilian tabletop RPG creator and artist, and Jen she's living in France, but she does a lot of art and tabletop book stuff, and the Hype Goblin. And we recorded that, and that'll be actually airing tomorrow on the Jocular Junction, cool. So you can check that out. And we're going to do like a 4-part series. So it'll be like part 1 is tomorrow, and the next Sunday will be part 2, etc. You can check that out on Jocular Junction, subscribe. But mostly I've been reading. I started writing like a rough outline of the dungeon for Boned, which is you're playing as a skeleton, which the more I think about it, I really like the idea.
Minion.
A minion too. Like you're just like you got a stick. You're like, all right, I got to go take care of these rats or something. Like my necromancer says I have to. But I started Boned, and I was thinking about it. Like I'm trying to write it for a very OSR style system. But then I was thinking, like, Gygax even said, like, you can play the monsters. Like, let players play the monsters. And I was like, every possible fantasy RPG has a skeleton. So this, if I write this correctly, it could really be system neutral. And you could just be like, all right, here's your skeleton. What do you want to do? And you're like, oh, okay. Like I'm a skeleton. And you know, like you're familiar with 5e. You're a 5e skeleton with a bow or a 5e skeleton with a sword. Go have fun. And I think that could be a lot of fun. So I've been writing Boned, and then through writing Boned, I was coming up with ideas for modular D6. So I was kind of going back and forth to that. Actually, this is kind of cool. I don't know if you saw, Lucian, but I made, I found a zine template, and so I made a little modular D6. Like this is how to create. This is like how you create your character and like create spells and stuff. So I wrote this as kind of an idea in my head where I'm like, well, can I simplify it enough to work with that with 6 very tiny pages? And I was able to. So I was like, oh, this is really cool. So I started working on that, which is kind of fun. And that's like an even simpler version of modular D6, which is probably the good starting point, because if like the base works, then I can extrapolate however I want.
I love the idea that you just said there. It's a D6 game, so you're going to make sure that the role-playing rules are 6 pages. Like, that's so cool. I love that.
And coincidentally, it just came with 6 pages, but my template that I had.
It just worked out.
It just works out. Got to have a cover. Got to have other stuff.
That's cool, though.
So doing that, and then I'm reading lots of indie systems. I read, I'm actually keeping track of all the books that I read in 2024, because I want to, at the end of the year, I want to be like, oh yeah, I read that, because I rarely do this, but I have a list now. And first on the list was Shadow Dark. I read Shadow Dark. On January 21st, my DCC group will get back together, and we're going to hopefully finish Peril of the Purple Planet. And then when that game is done, I think we're going to play Pangea, which will be the first time I've played 5e since Great Modron March. Pangea. And that's a phenomenal system, so I'm really excited. Or phenomenal setting. It's really, really exciting to play that. And then other than that, I'm building game shelves in my basement for... I'm building shelves in my game room.
More books.
So I can have books. And I've got quite a bit done. I got a COVID booster that really knocked me for a loop. I had a sick kid for a while, so a lot of it is kind of hinged on I wasn't available. But not working for like 4 days during Christmas, I was able to like, oh, I can like saw this wood. This is amazing. And so, and then I raided my father's woodworking shop for various drill bits and stuff that I needed to get things done. So I will show pictures of that when it's done and not before. Stop pestering me, viewer.
Can you hear my siren?
Oh, first of the month? I can't hear it, but there you go. Oh, so just keep talking, Jordan, because it's going like that. Okay. Should we roll out of here, or did you want to talk about anything of your games? I can't hear you.
How about now? There we go. Hopefully they don't do it for too long. They do the tornado siren at the very beginning of the year. No, I mostly played computer games. I watched a lot of movies and YouTubes and stuff over that holiday because I took a bunch of time off from work. We did play Dungeon of the Mad Mage, but we played a side set where we came out of the dungeon after we had cleared level 20, I think it was. And when we came into the inn, the yawning portal, there was a group playing. There was a whole mess of fighting going on that was caused by the deck of many things. So our dungeon master tied in the deck of many things. Somebody had pulled a card, or chaos had ensued, and we'd come up just as that had happened. Then we'd found out that 2 of our people have been captured because they drew from the cards and they got sent to the donjon, which is the part of that. So we were on a mission in the donjon to rescue some of our players. So that was what I had done, and that's kind of where we're at on our Thursday night game. I think we're gonna finish it here probably in the next month or so, and then we'll be talking about what are we gonna do next after this long. I feel like it's been a year and a half playing Dungeon of the Mad Mage all the way through, the longest campaign I've ever done, highest level characters I've ever created, that kind of thing. So it's very interesting. But I would say go ahead and take us out. That's probably our show for today.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for listening, guys. As we're figuring out our schedules, we'll get back. I know Lucian is doing a bunch of stuff. Saturdays are not super difficult, but yeah. So we're trying to figure it out if we can do this, but maybe we'll record on a different night, or maybe the show will evolve into something else and we'll kind of, have a chat with Jordan and Lucian time, and we'll just kind of talk about the cool things that we're interested in. So, because definitely you're still running through, are you still running that 5e game where I was going to be the villain or something? So yeah, you're muted, but okay. So
yes, we were on a break, but yeah, over the holiday we had.
That's the thing. Like, you're on a break, but I was like, I bet people still want to hear about all of that. So, Shozama, thank you so much for the $2 donation. I have played Old School Essentials. Actually, if you go to the Jocular Junction, there's a video of me running a custom frog dungeon that I built using OSE, and it's really, really great. But this was fun, so we're going to try and figure out a system that works, but I know, especially, not January is the problem, but really going forward, Lucian's got big camping plans and things like that.
Once spring hits, so, it's big.
You got to go live your life, so.
Well, and your kid's old enough now that your weekends could start to really pick
well,
up
no,
too,
they already are, yeah.
Stuff.
It's getting quite busy.
Yeah, weekends are very important to people's lives.
It's hard to organize a game on the weekends too. Like I've found that it, like, Tuesdays and Wednesdays, I can get people to show up the most consistently, but Fridays, no. Thursdays, it's always like, well, I'm leaving for a long weekend, and the weekend is just out. You don't get people to play on the weekends. So and it's kind of similar with podcasting and schedules and stuff. But I want to do a lot of other, like, live streams and stuff here and there when I can. So we'll see what happens.
Cool.
But anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. We'll be back when we're back, and we'll see you all in the next episode of the Saturday Morning RPG Show. Goodbye.
Bye.